Hey there, NFL fans. On today's video, we are taking a look at some surprise cut candidates in the AFC only. Stay tuned for the NFC one. That one is coming up. We're going to begin over in Houston with Kenny Stills. Now, a common theme that you'll see across both the videos we're doing for you guys is that the money matters. Kenny Stills carries a $7 million cap hit this year, and if he's cut or traded, of course, there's actually no dead money left for Houston. Now, Houston this past offseason, they brought in Brandon Cooks, they added Randall Cobb, yeah, they lost Hopkins, but with Will Fuller also still there, I think Kenny Stills kind of looks like the number 4 receiver in Houston. And if you're building an organization and building a team and knowing you got to pay Deshaun Watson all of the money, be it this year, next year, or whenever, maybe you shouldn't be paying your number 4 receiver $7 million, especially when you have Kiki Cutie or even Isaiah Coulter, the 5th-round pick, as potential options to fill that backup role. So what should Houston do with Kenny Stills? Type K for keep or C for cut. Now, we can do this for each of the players we're going to discuss. If you scroll down to the comments, you'll see the same question for all these guys. Just keep that in mind. But the one we'll show you on screen is Kenny Stills, so get your votes in. K for keep or C for cut. Let's go to Trent Murphy, who he got a lot of money coming his way this year. 9.78. I did round up a little bit there. That is the cap hit for Trent Murphy. If the Bills cut him, they save over 7.5. Now, Buffalo's depth at the defensive end spot, it's not great. It's not ideal by any means. But this is a player who's got 9 sacks his past 2 seasons, missed 2017, had 9 sacks total in 2016. That's not a player worth almost $10 million. So the depth is concerning for Buffalo, and that's maybe why he sticks around, but it does make him a surprise cut candidate. Now, we're not going to name a player for every single AFC team, so apologies if we left off your favorite team. But I want you to do is scroll down to the pinned comment on this video. If you get the ad break here on YouTube, that's the perfect time to go do it. And let me know what AFC player you think should be cut. Now, Raiders fans, before you get mad at me for this one, I asked Mitchell Renz. He said Prince Amukamara was the one to go with here. Again, surprise is the key thing here. Amukamara signed after the NFL draft has not had a great camp based on the reports coming out of it. The Raiders have younger options, and they didn't guarantee him very much. The contract Amukamara got was not the contract of someone who was going to be a guaranteed starter. It was the contract of someone who was actually fighting for a spot this season. You could go with Damon Arnett, go with Trayvon Mullen. You got 2 quality nickel options. You could survive with Lawson if you had to. Isaiah Johnson could maybe be a nice potential long-term piece for you. So Amukamara is my Raiders surprise cut candidate. Now, Raiders fans, if you want a jersey of someone who's not going to get cut, I think that's Josh Jacobs right now, chatsports.com/jersey deal has a whole bunch of NFL jerseys for under $80. That includes some new players and rookies as well. Joe Burrow, his jersey, under $80. This Odell Beckham Nike one, I know it's the throwback, or I guess the older Browns jersey, I should say. It's actually significantly cheaper than $80. So 80, they're all under 80, some even less than that. So check the comments and the description, chatsports.com/jersey deal. That link will be in there. Over to the Cincinnati Bengals. Gio Bernard is still I think a quality back. I don't think he's the same guy he ever was in his prime. My rationale here was that Bernard is due $4.77-ish million. The Bengals can save almost all of that by cutting him, over $4 million in savings, and their actual best back, Joe Mixon, is due for a significant contract extension. Maybe it's the Derrick Henry deal, 12.5. Maybe it's a little bit more. Maybe it's a little bit less. You have options there, at least if you're the Bengals and Mixon working out a long-term deal. The Bengals typically don't cut players. That's often against their MO. They often let guys stick around for longer than what they should have. But once they pay a guy, they normally let that contract go through. But with an ever-changing cap and an uncertain cap next year, might make some sense for the Bengals to save some money to pay Joe Mixon. Now, I am often on team don't pay the back because, well, it's the back and it's not the most important position on the NFL. But if you're the Bengals, you probably want to keep whatever young talent you have around Joe Burrow. So I actually would be on board with paying Joe Mixon. So get your votes in. Y for yes or N for no. Let's go to the Chiefs here. Damien Wilson, and don't worry, Chiefs fans, Harrison Graham signed off on this one as well. The Chiefs did pick up his team option back in March, and the Chiefs have been happy spenders this offseason. Chris Jones and Kelsey and Mahomes all got the bag. At some point, the middle class of players will get squeezed, and that's what Damien Wilson is right now for this team. A $5.38 million cap hit. Yes, he had a bunch of tackles last season. Guess what, folks? Tackles, not a good way to evaluate competent linebacker play. I'm not convinced he starts this year if some of the young guys can finally emerge. Maybe you just cut Wilson and save that money. Let's go to the Patriots here, and I thought about actually a couple different backs that could fit into this category. I went with Rex Burkhead, who is, I believe, a Bill Belichick favorite. Some special teams value might actually carry more value with Brandon Bolden opting out this season. But Sony Michel now off that physically unable to perform list, at least a potential positive sign for him being good to go in week 1. They also signed Lamar Miller. There's almost $1.4 million in savings if the Patriots were to cut Burkhead. So if you're keeping Michel, you're going to keep James White. I promise you that. I think you would keep Lamar Miller, but maybe you don't. Him and Burkhead could battle for that RB4 role. I think Damian Harris might actually play a bigger role for this team, but that's 5 backs. I am not convinced the Patriots go 5 deep at running back this year, so it came down to Burkhead and Miller for me. Since the Patriots just signed Lamar, I'm going to go with Burkhead as the surprise Patriots cut candidate. Speaking of New England, will they make the playoffs this year? I have been back and forth. Pre-Cam Newton signing, I was out. Post-Cam Newton signing, I was back on the bandwagon. Then the Patriots lost like 4 starters or 5 starters due to opt-outs, and I'm off the bandwagon again. But get your votes in. 1 for yes, 0 for no. We'll go now to I think it's still Patriots rival, the Indianapolis Colts, Jordan Wilkins, and I almost put Marlon Mack on here. I just didn't have the stones to actually do it. The efficiency numbers for Jordan Wilkins are actually super impressive. 5.8 yards per carry, now only on 111 over his 2 years, but that's super, super impressive. The problem for Wilkins is, well, Marlon Mack is there, Nyheim Hines is going to be your third down back, and you just drafted Jonathan Taylor. Are you going to go 4 deep at the back in the backfield? Will you carry Wilkins? I know many Colts fans want to, and I certainly understand why. I was wrong about him coming out of the NFL draft, but I'm not sure that's the best path for the Indianapolis Colts right now. Maybe they try and sneak him onto the practice squad. Maybe they even end up trading. I think all these guys could be traded, but I did include him on my surprise cut candidates for the AFC.